All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. In this one, we're going to be doing a sort of extended video special this year for kind of the Christmas video. We do an extended one for Walking Dead. I decided, why don't we take a look back at the rise and fall of the popularity of The Walking Dead. Okay, so I thought this would be a good one to go ahead and do with you guys, considering we are a full decade into the Walking Dead television series now. We're at our halfway point during the Walking Dead Season 10, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of go ahead and take a look back and kind of give our thoughts on the popularity of the series, kind of starting off from the beginning, becoming, pretty much one of the biggest drama series ever in the history of television, the biggest that AMC's ever had, and of kind of my generation, I would say probably in terms of viewership and demand, maybe the most popular ever, or at least in the discussion as one of the most popular drama TV series that's ever been done. You could probably argue for it or against Game of Thrones as which one would be like the biggest in the last 10 years. Probably for me, I'd say if you look at the amount of episodes The Walking Dead has done, the other spin-off series that it's spawned, like Fear, and now the additional one starting, I'd say pretty much I think The Walking Dead, because it's continued to go, never took a break, and kept going with 16 episodes a year, is pretty much probably the most viewed, maybe one of the most viewed drama-type series of all time, just based on its run so far. So, but what allowed it to do that? What allowed it to kind of become one of the most popular series of all time, and what has kind of had it kind of come down after that point? So, we take a look back on the seasons. Season 1 from when the series first started. Of course, we had the 6-episode first season that ran through, and it was a really great start. I mean, it's about as good as you could possibly expect. And right after that, of course, in the second season, even more people came back to watch the series. So the series started off, U.S. viewers, 5 million for the premiere, which is really good to start with anyway. But it was so good that the next year in Season 2, you had 7 million people checking it out in terms of live viewership. And we should also add in here that I know streaming and different options like this, AMC Premiere, have to be taken into account as well, because more people are doing that now. Back in 2010, 2011, that didn't really exist in the same way as it does now. So it was just kind of up and up and up. For me, I think the time when I kind of realized that this was going to be one of the best series ever, or at least for me, the time when I kind of thought of it as one of my favorite series ever, pretty much already, was around Pretty Much Dead Already, or at least was around the second half of Season 2. That's kind of where, at least for me, when they kind of had the Shane situation with Rick, and 18 Miles Out, and Better Angels, and Beside the Dying Fire. In those episodes right there, and if you look at it too, the season ended off with 9 million U.S. viewers when it finished its last episode with Beside the Dying Fire. Just incredible. So that really tells you that Better Angels was really a great episode, and that people were really surprised that they had killed off Shane, and they kind of went that route, because it didn't seem like they were kind of going that way, and then they did, and it was surprising for a lot of people. So of course that pumped it like crazy, in terms of popularity at the end of Season 2. And that's one of the things about the whole series. I think the second half of Season 2, or at least kind of where it ended off in the last few episodes, I think really did pump The Walking Dead almost as much as any other time in the entire series. I just think that the way they were able to kind of show that emotion for the audience, and the way they were able to connect to the audience, was sort of in a way that the comics was maybe able to for some readers, but for a lot of people was never able to kind of impact them that much. One of my favorites is 18 Miles Out with the theme song Wye Oak, a Civilian. You guys can listen to that one online. One of the best Walking Dead theme music of all time, right? That one right there, I think, for me anyway, that was when I was like, whoa, this is really amazing, right? Because you get that emotional impact. You can kind of feel what Shane's going through. You kind of feel what's happening there. It was just really, really an amazing time. And so then the next season, that's when they passed 10 million, almost 11 million viewers, when Season 3 first started with Seed. And you had like this awesome start to Season 3. There was a lot of hype around the show at that time, more than it ever had before, because Season 2's finish was so strong. It was probably better than anything they'd done prior, at least for, how kind of exploding the popularity of the series very quickly, to where people were telling other people about it, people wanted to see it. And so when the third season kind of came on, you had Murrow kind of come in with the governor in that, and some great stuff. You had the prison kind of starting. You start off at almost 11 million people watching the premiere live. and that pretty much held the entire season, going right up to the end of the season at just even higher at 12.42. So you're seeing kind of the build-up of this series, and I think, really good first season, and then the way the second season ended, a real boom for people, that when the next season came back in season 3, people were like, oh man, this is so awesome, gotta watch this, right? And then season 3 did a pretty good job of holding on to that audience, and maybe in some ways kind of expanding a little bit further, because then season 4 came on, and you had 16 million viewers to start with 30 Days Without an Accident, which was that's an incredible premiere to get 16 million eyeballs watching, or two each, but 60 million people watching kind of that start with the prison, what was going on with that, 30 Days Without an Accident, and kind of the governor kind of coming back in with Too Far Gone and that kind of stuff, and then continuing on with the second half of the season, finishing up with it was just it was still kind of coming up, and people were still talking about it. It was still kind of becoming even more popular all the time. And then season 5 sort of starts off with No Sanctuary, with I think their highest rated ever in terms of raw viewership, with 17.9 US million viewers, making it the most viewed episode The Walking Dead ever did in terms of that metric. I'd say season 7 was probably even bigger with its premiere, though, because of the hype around it, and then you have to factor in the switch to streaming and the switch to people watching stuff online or DVRing or all that stuff, because it's 2 years later and it's just under it. But up until this point, No Sanctuary with Carol and everything they did with that, with Terminus, absolutely amazing stuff to start off the season. A lot of hype. Sort of ended off with that cliffhanger where they were in the train cars. So you had all these people wanting to come back and see, oh my God, what's going to happen next with them being caught here, them kind of getting away. You go up to Coda with the stuff with Beth in the mid-season 5, and then you continue with the second half of that season, finishing off with Conquer, with another really great finish to the season. Coming back to season 6, a little bit of a dip there, 14.63 million with First Time Again, but it still held pretty strong. And of course, as the season was going through, we had No Way Out, which I personally, if you guys know, if you've watched my videos, is one of my all-time favorite episodes of any series ever, if not maybe like second or something like that, because of course Rick's last episode was sentimental in a lot of ways, right? But No Way Out was an incredible just zombie apocalypse episode, and that's why season 6 is one of my favorites of all time, is because for zombie apocalypse stuff from episode 1 to 9, it's unbelievable. It's like the best zombie apocalypse movie you've ever seen with regards to the raw zombies and the raw amount of zombies, like 30,000 or whatever they said in that season to start. So it was just really amazing stuff. And then, of course, the second half of season 6 leads into kind of starting with Negan. So you have Dwight kind of coming in just before that. You have kind of the start to them kind of finding out about the Saviors. What is this group about? Who are they? And then the Last Day on Earth is the season finale with still 14 million. So about the same all the way through season 6. It might have dipped down a little bit compared to 5. But really, I thought a really strong season. And definitely not a season that's going to hurt the series, because when season 7 kind of came back, everybody was discussing who Negan killed or who Negan was going to kill, and that brought in another 17 million, which really was, I think, at least in terms of hype and in terms of people talking about the series, when you account streaming, because it's a couple years later, and DVRing and all that stuff, I'd say, you could probably argue for either season 5's premiere or season 7's premiere as being the absolute pinnacle height of the series. I would personally say season 7, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, just because I remember how crazy it was and how frantic it was of people wanting to know who Negan killed. I literally went to get my oil changed, and the guy who was changing my oil was like, I know you, man. I seen you on YouTube, right? He's like, so who is it, man? And the funny thing was, he's like, I think it's going to be Abraham, man. I think it's going to be Abraham. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And this tweaker is at the lube place changing my car's oil. And it turns out he was right. It was Abraham, at least at first, because he said Abraham, and I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe they'll just go with the same one as the comics. Maybe they'll just go with Glenn, right? And it ended up being like this. We both ended up being right. He was kind of more right, though. The tweaker who changed the oil in my car ended up being right. But he recognized me and stuff, and that's kind of at least that's a personal thing I remember of kind of how crazy it just was. Like, that's what everybody, and I remember online too, like people talking about this one. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. Like, people could not wait to find out who Negan had killed. So it was a brutal cliffhanger. It was painful to watch Last Day on Earth, to have to wait to find out. It's like, oh, Negan killed the cameraman, right? So, but to actually wait and find out, and that was just absolutely insane, man. Getting ready for that season, and people just discussing who they thought it would be and everything. it was, it was painful to go through, but it ended up being, I think, a smart move to kind of delay it and build up that anticipation for the next season. Okay, now here's where things switch. Now this is where I think the big switch occurs in Walking Dead. And, you guys can leave your comments below about what you think it was here that did this. Season 7 started out, 17 million viewers. Literally the next episode coming back with The Well was only 12.46, and then it went to 11, and then 10, and then pretty much the season finished off at around 11. So you started off with this huge amount of people, everyone talking about it, everyone being like, I can't wait to find out who it is, and oh my goodness, this is so crazy and everything. Whatever happened in season 7 here, and again, I want to see your guys' speculation below about what it was that you think in particular turned away so many people. If it was just the fact that The Walking Dead had done 84 episodes to start and 99 by the time the season finished with the 16-episode run. They, of course, also simultaneously here, about a year or two prior, 2015, they had started the first season of Fear the Walking Dead with 6 episodes, which is kind of unbelievable that it started off getting like 10 million to start and then like 6 million, 7 million, a lot of people watching. Second season, 6 million, 5 million, 3 million. And then it kind of came down to around 3, and now it's trending at around like, 1.5 or 2. But you could also argue that a lot of that streaming too. So Fear capturing maybe about, half of the audience of the original series, which is not bad. And if you have to think about it too, it still has done 69 episodes at this point, at the end of season 5, that people have seen of that series, and that's going to be for AMC. I'm sure that's a success. That's a win, because if you add those 69 to the other, I mean, you're getting a lot overall. As far as zombie apocalypse stuff goes, this is the most zombie apocalypse content that's ever been made, and I'd say when you factor in both series and the time it takes to make it and everything, even probably surpassing the comics in terms of hours it would take to actually go through and watch all this stuff, right? It's just so much stuff. So, but, season 7 is where it dropped off after that premiere. And then when the season finished up, it just kind of was like season 8, people coming back, only 11 million. And then season 9, when it came back after that, it was down to around 6 million US viewers. So counting some for streaming, counting some for DVRing and technology improving in those few years, it still had a huge dip in popularity. I even remember, because I collected the figures and stuff like that and the comics and everything, around this time, the stuff was selling like hotcakes. Nowadays, they just can't even get rid of the stuff. It's like, I don't think they're producing hardly any collectibles for Walking Dead anymore because the stores are just hanging on to them and people aren't buying it, right? It's just like sitting there. They have to discount it, finally discount it down, and finally they can get rid of it. So this series that was in so much demand at around season 7 has gone down to like, nowadays to get like 3 million, viewers for new episodes in season 10, which again, you can account some for streaming, but Fear's premiere got 10 million. So it was 3 times that. And 17 million, I mean, goodness, I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of people that, safe to say you probably would never see something like that again, except for maybe like a final last episode. Even that, I don't think you will, even still, right? No matter what. If you didn't get it for Rick's last episode, you're not going to get it for that either. So what was it about season 7 and season 8 here for you guys that started the decline kind of downward? I've read a good number of reviews online because I, of course, have my opinions. And as a hardcore comic book fan, comic book reader, I was still enjoying The Walking Dead a lot this time. I did think that the second half of season 7 might have been a little bit weak because they were stretching out the war into the next season. And they did some good stuff with Sasha and that one and that kind of stuff. But is it just that the Savior's arc was too long? Like it was 2 full years plus the introduction, which was like the second half of season 6, a part of that. And being over 2 years long with Negan and the Saviors, it just turned off a lot of people. I did see an article that said that the data shows Negan is bad for The Walking Dead, right? Because this is when he came in and it started off great. And then he kind of wins in the premiere, so he kills both of them. And maybe that was just too much for people. And season 7 turned out to be too bleak and too kind of slow-paced and too much filler throughout. Even The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, it was a longer episode. It was an extended episode. It was kind of like a longer episode than maybe it needed to be. You have him and Rick, and they kind of go for like this drive and stuff like that and all this other stuff. And then you kind of find out and everything. They make you wait for it and everything. So is it because they filled out All-Out War too much, and instead of doing it for 2 full years, they should have made it a year or something? It's kind of hard to say because, they don't want to go through the comic book content too fast either. They want to kind of space it out and take their time with it. I haven't seen the same complaints of the Whisperer stuff, so I think that's been really good so far. Maybe it's just season 7 after the premiere. It just, the setup for the new stuff, and it kind of had a really down sort of feeling for everybody. They're underneath Negan and the Saviors. They're kind of having to work for him and serve up to him, and people just it made the characters really sad. And you have Maggie, she's crying all the time, and Rick's kind of crying and stuff. You have some kills here with Service and stuff like that. There was Spencer in that, and so as a comic book reader, I was loving to see these scenes be brought to life in this season. But I have to remember that most people don't read the comics. So for casual viewers, why they probably left it around this time was because Season 7 was kind of a downer to be underneath Negan, and then the rise up thing where they finally get ready to rise back up and fight against him. It was just kind of a depressing sort of dark mood for a season. And you also start off Season 7 sort of with a finale with who Negan kills. And that's kind of like a finale episode. And then you introduce Ezekiel and the well, the cell, and stuff with Dwight there. And it just felt like maybe it was too drawn out, or people just didn't want to see Negan anymore because they were mad at him because he had killed Glenn and Abraham. So they were like, they didn't want to see anything to do with him. Nowadays, they've kind of more redeemed him somewhat, as much as you probably can do. But people just not forgiving him, kind of hating Negan, and just wanting to see them get their revenge on Negan. And in order to do that, they had to wait a couple years. And even after that, of course, Negan survived. He wasn't killed off. So we come back for Season 8, where that kind of continues, right? Season 8 starts off with 11 million viewers, which is, similar. Accounting for streaming is not bad, not a bad premiere. But then by the time it ends off at only 7.92, and then the next season again, so that's where you can kind of draw that. You could even argue maybe Season 8 was worse for the series than Season 7, because after Season 8 ended, you premiered literally with only 6 million, and that was with the knowledge and information, the promotion, that we were going to see Rick's last episodes come up, which could have only promoted the series even further at that time. I mean, can you guys imagine if Rick didn't leave in Season 9's first half? How many people really would have been interested in watching that 9th season after Season 8 if they didn't know that Rick's last episodes were coming up? It probably pumped Season 9 even higher than it would have been either, for us to find out that Rick was going to be leaving, all this stuff was happening. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten even that much if it was just the run-of-the-mill regular stuff. If anything, Rick's leaving at that time, at least during Season 9, I think probably would have helped promote it and got it even higher than it would have been, but it was only at 6 million. So whatever happened during these two seasons, you went from 17 million people to 6 million the next season after, or the start to the following season. So whatever it was about All Out War in the TV series version, maybe it's because action is too difficult to do in a TV series and it takes too long to do it because you have to take all this time to do these action scenes. And then when you play them through, they take up almost no time in the series, right? Whether it was too much add-in and too much kind of different outposts and fighting in Season 8 and too much action throughout. And then, of course, Carl being killed off with How It's Gotta Be and then Honor. You could also argue, too, that some of the character deaths that built The Walking Dead up to where it was, like Shane and Merle and some of the others that pumped it, actually later on at this time started to hurt it. So in the beginning, the character deaths helped The Walking Dead kind of come up. But then people got so attached to the characters, and when certain ones were killed off, such as Glenn and Abraham in Season 7 premiere, or big time here Carl, that's a big one, right? That it made people dejected, and it pushed them out because emotionally it had hurt them, and maybe that's what it is in Season 7. Season 7, it hurt personally when you saw Glenn and Abraham get smashed, and it wasn't fun after that. So it was a really bleak season, maybe one of the bleakest seasons of a series I've ever seen, because they're just underneath everything, and they can't, underneath the saviors, and it sucks, and you're feeling for them, and it kind of every episode's like that, and it's filled out, and it's slow. It's like a slow hurt that you just want to kind of get through, but then they don't give it to you until like the end of Season 8, finally, with a twist at the end with Eugene and everything. So definitely leave your comments below and let me know about that, what you guys think with Carl and with Glenn and Abraham. If you think those character deaths turned off a good portion of the audience to where maybe they wanted to see that future Carl, they wanted to see Carl surpass Rick at some point or become sort of the lead of the series when eventually Andrew Lincoln did leave. Of course, they would have had no idea that was probably going to happen at that time. But whatever happened with Honor and that, when you finish the season off, you're in the 6s, and maybe that just pushed a good number of people out after Carl was dead. They're like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Everyone's going to die, and it's too painful, and I don't want to watch it, right? Something like that, or maybe it's just because the war was so sporadic and crazy, and they're shooting the windows, and they're shooting all over the place. People have pointed out some of these things. It's like, whatever. Me, of course, I'm an action junkie, as you guys know, so I loved Season 8. It was actually one of my favorite seasons ever, as a matter of fact. But I got to be unbiased and realize, okay, that's you, Trev. But other people, they didn't like it. They weren't really going for it. And by the time it ended, they were so maybe sad about Carl or sad, and then Negan even gets to live anyway, which maybe makes it even worse. I don't know. But whatever it is, by the time season 8 ends, you come back in season 9 with only 6 million people watching. Okay, so going on from there, our last couple years of The Walking Dead, which is a lot of the new stuff that we haven't really looked back on because it's still relatively new, but what we're seeing kind of right now, so you start off season 9 with 6 million people with, like I said, the understanding that Rick's final episodes are coming up, which is just going to pump, the series even more, I would think. Or maybe you could argue, and you guys can leave your comments about that one too, do you think that once people found out Rick would be leaving, that the promotion actually hurt it? Like, because people were like, oh, I don't want to see Rick leave. I don't want to see that. Maybe they're going to kill him off. I'm not going to watch or something. I don't know. But for me personally, I thought it was sort of like one of those where, like, once you heard that this was going to happen, you just have to watch because you'd have to see, does he survive? Does he die? What happens here? Are they going to kill Rick off? Oh my God, are we going to watch this? Or is it to where people, once they found it out, they didn't want to watch it? I think, if anything, it would have brought even more people to watch because of the shock value and because of the wanting to understand, wanting to see what was going to happen with his final episodes, with what comes after, which I personally think is the best episode the series ever had, but it only had 5 million people watching it at this point, which is less than a third of what you had. Maybe accounted for streaming, let's say about like a third to 17, right? A couple years prior. So surprisingly, after that happened, Rick's last episode was at 5.4. The season finishes off at 5.2, and so I think that it's probably to where season 9 was so good and the Whisperers were so fresh after seeing a couple years and a half of Saviors. The Whisperers coming in as a new group of villains, you having the time skip, the series sort of reinventing itself, and surprisingly, which I would have never thought in a million years this could even happen, but maybe Rick leaving actually didn't really hurt it that much in that season at that time, because it promoted the season to where people would want to watch, I would think, to find out what's going to happen with Rick's ending, how that's going to end off and how that's going to happen. And then also after that, you're having Daryl kind of be sort of at the forefront, and Carol and Michonne and some of the others. So that's a change. And after 120 episodes of an hour-long episodes of a series, with commercials, that is, you're seeing things change, you're seeing things switch over. So does that mean then that after 120 episodes that switching out your lead is a bad thing? At first you'd say, oh yeah, you can't lose Rick or the series will die. No one will want to watch it, right? But it's not really what happened. At least for season 9, it continued all the way through it. Pretty much the same amount of people watching. So it didn't really hurt the series at all for what they did at that time. And if anything, season 9 might have been even weaker if people didn't know Rick was leaving and if he was still there and it was just the run-of-the-mill kind of stuff at 120 episodes or whatever. So kind of a shocking surprise there, at least for me, that watching it through, almost as many people were still interested at that time, even though Rick wasn't there, because the Whispers were so good. Everybody still loves Daryl. Everybody loves Carol. Everyone loves Michonne. They're still there. So you want to see that, and you just kind of want to see what happens with the Whispers and post-time skip. It was just a very interesting way to handle things after Rick had be gone, raising a lot of questions. And if anything, I think maybe even, so I don't think season 9 really can be said, at least in my opinion, to really have any detriment towards the series whatsoever. I feel like it was such a strong season. It was so amazing. Things changed so much to reinvent it that, if anything, it probably just helped keep it going and did the best they could with a situation that sounded like total catastrophe at first. They kind of turned it into a win. Now, of course, long term, it probably isn't a win. If you're going to want to see Rick, you're going to have to watch the movie universe, and he's probably not going to return to the TV series, and that's what it is. Season 10 comes back with a 132nd episode with Lines Recrossed. Also counting that Fear has had 69 episodes, you're looking at over 200, or is that 200? Well, over 200 episodes of Walking Dead in total, especially with now that they've crossed Morgan over into Fear and Dwight over into Fear, it just feels like it's Walking Dead, like we should pretty much consider it pretty much to be the same thing at this point. Same universe, same thing, have some of the characters in it now even. It is Walking Dead, so we have to kind of include it in. Adding even more episodes to that, over 200 episodes in its 10th season, which is amazing because most series would never even get here, right? Especially at hour-long runtimes, you never see that, and some extended and everything else, you never see it. 4 million people come back for season 10, but the kick up in streaming and premiere hits around this time, so we got to factor in some people watching on premiere, whatever. Even more and more people are doing the streaming thing all the time. So 4 million versus 6 million the year prior. It feels like it, with Premiere added in that last year or so, feels like it's pretty much staying around the same in terms of popularity. But going from there to the mid-season finale, The World Before, where we're at right now in season 10, 3.21 million U.S. viewers, also factoring in premiere, also factoring in streaming online. Still really good numbers for what anybody would expect to see for a TV series. A lot of TV series would wish to get that. And factoring in these subscriptions and everything is probably about the same as where kind of it a little bit down from where it started, but not a tremendous dip or anything like that, or a tremendous decline in terms of popularity. Kind of keeping your core fan base, and then also factoring in the fact that the comics did end before the season started, sort of putting it in a place where that I think did hurt more than a lot of us would have expected it to, with regards to the series kind of continuing on with its popularity. But at the same time, you're doing some good stuff here with Dante and Sadiq and characters, so you get to kind of get more out of the Whisperers later instead of having to kill off Alpha or something like that right now. You can keep that going and use that for the second half of season 10 instead. So in terms of the build-up for The Walking Dead, coming up from basically 5 million or almost not, just to start a comic series and everything, I think the biggest boost for it were like season 2's ending with Shane and what happened with that. Season 3 just being a lot of fun with Woodbury and the Governor and Merle and everything, and Daryl and Rick and everybody else, kind of those OG ones. Season 4, pretty good, Too Far Gone, one of the best episodes ever. People still love that one. Season 5 starting off with amazing stuff in No Sanctuary, going through with kind of finding Alexandria and all that. And then season 6, a little bit of a dip, but kind of coming back near the end. Season 7, biggest ever, I'd say, with Negan's first appearance. And then season 7 and 8 is where it started to kind of, the popularity started to go the other way. And it started to decline, maybe even almost as fast as it went up, right? To where season 9, season 8, when it ends off, season 9 coming in, a lot less people watching, down to almost a third, like down below half the amount of people. And then at this time right now, like a half of that. So I think the biggest factor of the whole thing in terms of kind of the decline in popularity is the volume, the amount. And ultimately, that's going to happen eventually anyway. Like if you run 139 episodes of the original series and 69 episodes of Fear, and now they're going to add on the third series next year, so there's going to be 42 episodes that year, which will put it up close to 250 episodes overall. I'm really happy that they, use the Walking Dead license so much, and that we got so much content and so much to kind of talk about and have fun with and to kind of see. I've absolutely, loved covering this series with you guys for these 10 years. It's been absolutely amazing. And if the news is true, that around season 12's end might be kind of the wrapping point, or maybe season 13 if they get another one after that. We'll have to see. Then, okay, fine, no problem. But it's been a lot of fun doing this with you guys. Absolutely love doing this with you guys. So much fun watching the series. That's kind of my take on kind of the rise and fall of the popularity of it to where it went up. And I guess ultimately, eventually, it's probably inevitable, that eventually it would kind of come down as popular as it was around the 5, 6, 7 period to start. And then, 7, the rest of 7 and 8, and then 9, and kind of where it's at right now. I guess it's sort of just like that would just happen. But, here's to hoping that the movies kind of, continue to bring people to it. That's kind of what they want. And the TV series continues for at least a little while longer, with surprisingly, based on that report anyway, Fear maybe even having a longer run, possibly, meaning it'll might even run on longer than the original TV series will. Not that it might get 13 seasons, but it might get a few more years, and then the Walking Dead original series might be kind of finishing up at around that time. If that's true, maybe it's not true, and maybe it'll run for another 5 or 10 years. I don't know. But I thought this would be fun to do with you guys. What are some of the factors that for you? Those are kind of my thoughts in doing this with you guys online, reading your comments over the years. That's kind of what I could say as a hardcore Walking Dead fan, sort of helped build the series up to its all-time heights. And then ultimately with 7 and 8 and sort of the stuff that happened there, but then also maybe just the amount of episodes, because once you get past that 100 episodes and you add on all these others for Fear 2, and a lot of people were watching it when it started, they were excited for that when it first started, maybe just overall zombie fatigue, overall kind of getting tired of it. I'm starting to see that more and more now with the some of the superhero movies, because there's been so many superhero movies. I'm starting to see there's still people who love them. A lot of people do still love them, but there is starting to be that group of people that's like, I am tired of these superhero movies. I don't want to watch these anymore. The fatigue is real after you do a certain amount. No matter how good you make it, it feels like eventually things will kind of diminish down, or they won't always be as hot as they are in their peak or in their heyday. So that's it. Where we go from here on out for the rest of the series, I would expect it to be probably about where it's at right now, like 3 million, 4 million type of viewer range for each episode, going forward to the wrap up to maybe the end of the series when eventually it does end, whether that be 12, 13, 14, 15, who knows, wherever. For the original series, and then maybe the other series as well too. And who knows, maybe AMC will keep producing Walking Dead content for 10, 20 years, just other series and other ideas and other new groups and things like this that they'll do. I don't know if all of us will be into watching all of it. You're kind of getting to the point at that point where it's like only the hardcore of the hardcore are going to watch that. And this year with the comics ending, it almost feels like it took out not the casual, but it took out a little bit of those really hardcore people that really loved it. Comics ended, people felt a little bit betrayed, and even a little bit of that audience maybe left too, because the casual is fine, but then the hardcore fans are like, really, it's over? Okay, well, I don't care then about the TV series either. Then I'm just done with it. I'm gonna watch something else instead, or read a different comic or something instead, right? So there's probably that voice too in there that also affects it. So those are my thoughts on it with you guys. If you ask me, Trev, what was kind of your favorite season overall? It's hard to say, man, because season 9's first half was so incredible and everything, and season 7's start. Maybe I'd go with for me personally, between season 5 to the start of 7 was for me kind of the time when I was enjoying Walking Dead the most of ever. It built up from those earlier stuff to kind of a peak period around there, I think, to where it was so much fun. Everybody was loving it. Everybody was talking about it, and it meant something. If a certain character was killed off, it really impacted people. People really did get sad, or they really were excited if someone was in peril or in jeopardy. And then even with season 9, where they do the pikes, where they kill off like so many people at once, and people are just like, whatever. Yeah, it's The Walking Dead. They kill people off. That's what they do, right? I guess that's going to happen after you do 200 episodes or whatever, right? And even Fear's done some crazy deaths, too, that you never expect as well, too. So eventually it feels like that's kind of normalization that goes on for that long. So that's it for the recap video, guys. I hope you liked it. The rise and fall of the popularity of The Walking Dead. We'll see where it finishes off in the next few years here, or maybe even later, and kind of how many people are still interested and still want to do it. And, of course, with the channel here with you guys, how interested you guys are. We'll kind of see. And please leave me that feedback, because I do read it. I do read your guys' comments, and I do take them into consideration. That's what this video is all about, is kind of going through a lot of the reflection on your guys' comments and your guys' feedback over the years. That's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and you can subscribe at the bottom left if you're new. As always, this is Trev, and I'm saying peace later, guys. I'll see you soon.